Why is it that men silently beg for certain things in relationships, but almost never receive them? Not money, not status, not admiration in public, but something deeper, something buried in the psychology of intimacy itself. Carl Jung once said, "That which we do not bring to consciousness appears in our lives as fate." And here's the fate of millions of men today. They move through relationships starved for 5 positions that women rarely, if ever, offer. Now, listen carefully, because when I say positions, I don't mean physical bedroom techniques. No, I mean psychological postures. The ways a woman shows up in a man's inner world. The roles she embodies or refuses to embody that make the difference between a bond that heals and a bond that quietly destroys. But why do women rarely give these? Why do men never ask directly for them? And what happens to society when this silent hunger festers? That's the central question. And the answer, as Jung would remind us, lies in the shadows of our psyche. Let's start with the first position.
Every man begs, silently, for a woman who reflects him truthfully. Not with praise, not with fake validation, but with a mirror so raw it confronts his shadow. Men live in a world of masks. At work, with friends, even with family, they hide weakness. But in love, he craves someone who sees behind it, who says, "I see you, not the armor, not the performance, you." Yet most women, caught in their own insecurities, give one of 2 things instead, either blind admiration or constant criticism. Neither is truth. Neither feeds his soul. And so the man continues starving. He begs for the mirror, but receives distortion. Why? Jung would say it's because the feminine archetype, the anima, is projected onto women. She becomes not who she is, but what his unconscious needs. And when she refuses the mirror position, the man collapses inward, confused why love feels hollow. Now, position 2. The modern world drains men. Competition, status games, political chaos, digital noise, it devours his energy. What he begs for, though never dares to say, is a woman who becomes a sanctuary. Not nagging, not testing, not comparing. A sanctuary. A place where he can breathe without performing. But here's the tragic irony. Many women, shaped by the culture of hyper-independence, fear that being sanctuary means being submissive. They confuse peace with weakness. So instead of calm, they bring more chaos. Instead of sanctuary, they offer a battlefield. And the man, again, starves. Do you see the pattern? These positions aren't about sex, they're about psychology, about Jung's warning that without integration of opposites, masculine and feminine, we collapse into resentment. The man craves the mirror, he craves the sanctuary, and yet both are rare in today's dating dynamics. Now, imagine a society where men never receive these, where men walk around armored, drained, unseen. What happens? You get emptiness, quiet desperation, addictions, rage turned outward or inward. Jung said, where love rules, there is no will to power. Where power dominates, love is lacking. When women refuse these first 2 positions, love is replaced by a cold war of power. And men, begin to see relationships not as healing, but as draining. That is the tragedy we begin with, and it is only the beginning, because there are still 3 more positions men beg for, silently, desperately, but rarely receive. In the next part, we dive deeper, and the truth will only get darker. Every man secretly begs for a woman who can challenge him, not by nagging or belittling, but by awakening his dormant strength. Understand this. Men don't want comfort alone. Comfort without challenge makes him soft. He doesn't want blind worship. He doesn't want endless ease. What he craves is the right kind of resistance. A woman who can stand before him and say, "I believe in you, but I won't let you stay small." This is not the critic. It's not the constant complainer. This is the archetypal challenger, the feminine force that awakens his warrior, that refuses to let him collapse into mediocrity. But here's the tragedy. Most women confuse challenge with conflict. They think testing his patience, creating drama, or withholding affection is keeping him strong. That's not challenge. That's sabotage. The real challenger position is rooted in faith. Faith in his potential. Faith that he can rise. It is not meant to break him, it's meant to call him upward. Jung would say this is the dance of individuation, the tension of opposites that forces growth. Without it, the man withers. With it, he expands into his destiny. But in today's culture, men rarely find this. Instead, they find either passivity, where she demands nothing, or destruction, where she demands everything, but in a way that poisons love. And so he begs silently for the challenger, but meets only critics or bystanders. Now, position 4. Every man carries a secret battle, a dream he doubts, a fight he thinks he might lose, and though he may never say it, he begs for a woman who believes in him when he cannot. This is not the same as blind validation. No, this is conviction. This is a woman who looks him in the eye when the world calls him a failure and whispers, "You're not done yet." Do you see how rare that is today? In a culture where women are told men are disposable, where masculinity is mocked, where faith in a man is seen as naive, very few women occupy this position. And yet, history itself is shaped by it. Jung once wrote that the anima, the inner feminine, is a guide to the deepest transformation. For a man, a woman who believes in him can embody that anima, pushing him toward individuation, his fullest self. But when he doesn't receive this, something dies inside him. His will weakens, his faith in himself decays. He may keep going, yes, out of duty, out of survival, but he carries a hidden emptiness, the ache of never having been believed in when it mattered most. Imagine a man building an empire, yet silently haunted by the fact that the one closest to him never truly believed. That is a wound that never heals. So far, we have uncovered 4 positions men beg for: the mirror, the sanctuary, the challenger, and the believer. Each one is not about domination or submission, not about manipulation. They are archetypal truths hidden in the psyche. Jung himself would call them essential for integration, for wholeness. And yet, how many men today find even one of these in a partner? This is why so many retreat, why so many withdraw from relationships entirely, because they are starved, not of pleasure, but of psychological nourishment. But there is still one final position, perhaps the most powerful of them all. And when you hear it, you'll understand why so many men suffer in silence. Let's go there.
At his core, every man carries wounds. Wounds from childhood, wounds from failure, wounds from betrayal, heartbreak, rejection. Some of these scars he hides so well, even he forgets they are there. But Jung warned us, what we repress does not disappear. It lives in the unconscious. It bleeds into our choices. It shapes our fate. And men, more than anyone, are taught to bury it, to man up, to hide the pain, to keep moving. Yet in the secret chambers of his heart, every man begs for a woman who becomes the healer, not by fixing him, not by controlling him, but by offering a presence so compassionate, so steady, that his wounds are finally safe to surface. Do you realize how rare this is? In a world of transactional love, of conditional affection, of endless tests and comparisons, few women hold space to heal. Most offer affection only when he performs, respect only when he wins, intimacy only when he meets her terms. That is not healing. That is bargaining. The true healer does not bargain. She embodies Jung's principle of integration, where shadow is not condemned but brought to light. She says, "You are wounded, yes, but you are not broken. You are still whole, and I will not weaponize your pain against you." That is the position men beg for, but almost never receive. And when they don't, they carry their wounds forward, into silence, into anger, into addictions, into wars. When men are denied healing, the entire society suffers, because unhealed men do not vanish. They lead, they fight, they build, they destroy, and the unconscious wounds steer it all. Now, step back, look at all five together. The mirror, truth. The sanctuary, peace. The challenger, growth. The believer, faith. The healer, wholeness. These are not luxuries. They are archetypal needs rooted in Jung's deepest insights into the human psyche. And yet, how many men dare to ask for them? Almost none. Because men are trained to stay silent, to beg without words, to accept starvation as normal. And how many women know how to embody these? Almost none. Because modern culture has distorted femininity into either passive submission or aggressive competition. Both extremes miss the truth. The tragedy is that when these positions are missing, love collapses into power. Relationships become battlegrounds. And the cycle of resentment, what Nietzsche warned of, consumes us all. But here's the revelation. When even one of these positions is embodied, everything changes. A man no longer hides behind masks. He no longer drains himself fighting meaningless wars. He rises. He integrates. He becomes. And this is the paradox. Society shames men for needing these positions, yet it is precisely when they receive them that they stop needing. The mirror awakens self-honesty. The sanctuary teaches him to create inner calm. The challenger grows his will. The believer restores his faith. The healer integrates his wounds. Once given, he internalizes them. He no longer begs. He becomes sovereign. That is the ultimate Jungian truth. What we receive from the other, we learn to carry within. So the question is not only, why do women never try these positions? The real question is, how long can men survive without them? Because make no mistake, when men starve, civilizations collapse. But when they are fed, when they are mirrored, sheltered, challenged, believed in, and healed, they do not merely survive. They lead. They create. They build futures no shadow can erase. And maybe, just maybe, the fate of love itself depends on whether these forgotten positions return.